it was not the first time, that I cried about that situation. It was many days that I used to go up in the mountains, and on the Sabbath, that's the only time you get a little freedom away from them. I would go up in the mountains and sneak food in my purse and stuff, and just to get away. I had to get away. And I would go up in the mountain and read the Bible. At least I would try to read the Bible, and just break down in tears. I could not believe that we had came into a situation that was similar to a lot of what I read about black slavery. It's just that we understood black slavery was basically in this country was under white rule, and we were like in a sense slaves. We couldn't open our mouth, we couldn't say nothing, couldn't express our feelings. You couldn't let them know if you something was hurting you. Like if like say for instance, if you didn't like a certain thing, you couldn't go up to them and say, well, you're breaking up my family. Why are you doing? You couldn't say these things, so you had to hold all this stuff in you. So that particular day when they put me out in the streets, I had held it all that time. I refused to cry in front of them because I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of thinking that they had broke my spirit and broke me down. So when I got out of their eyesight, that's when I started crying. And Sister Basheva, that's Brother Moshe's wife, that's Little Moshe's uncle. She came by and she said, "What's wrong with you, Sister Basheva?" And I say, "They put me out in the streets." I said, "They broke up me and Elihu like that." And so she looked real sad and pitiful. She said, "Well," she said, "don't worry about it." She said, "They're going to get what's coming to them," like that. That was the sister that I was telling you about. They made them an outcast on her husband back earlier. So then after that, I asked Sister Root, could I stay over her house? Now they had made her an outcast too, her and her 2 teenage children. She was afraid to let me stay, and I can understand because, she didn't know whether those guys were going to come in and kick her door in or whatever. So I begged her to let me stay just for that night. I said, let me stay because I didn't have no place. I couldn't at the time. I was just too emotionally, mentally, and traumatically upset to get on the bus to go to Beersheba because that's where I was going to go anyway. But I just could not get myself together at that particular time. And I begged her to let me stay because at that time Shoshanim had left. They had, like I said, they had threatened their lives, and they had left. So it was really nobody that I could really stay with. Yeah. Okay. And because everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid. And so she said, okay. I told her, I promised her that I would get up early that morning and leave. So I stayed there that night, and real early that morning, I guess it's around about 5 o'clock, I got up and got myself together. And I left. I didn't see anybody on the streets. And I left, and I caught the bus. And I went down to Beersheba. When I got down to Beersheba, I told my mother-in-law what happened. And we all, we just was broken up. We just was, they had just went, they had just abused us to the point, where, we just didn't know what to do. They had broke up the men in our family, and here was 3 women now without husbands. And so anyway, she tried to get me not to come back to the States. She said, Elihu might come to his senses. So I told her no. I said, my parents is worried, they're upset, and no sense in me trying to stay over here, not after the way the situation went down. I said, no. I said, I am going back to the States. So in the meantime, while I was there, Ben Ammi had sent them a letter, my mother-in-law a letter, and they had told them that they wanted to get out that apartment. Well, the apartment was, from what I understand, had been leased in Simone's name. See, they had used Simone's passport to get this apartment. So I don't know how the laws is over in Israel concerning people using an apartment, but from what I understand was that if you lease an apartment in your name, then you can't rent it out to me, you see, or let me use it. You have to live in it. Now that's what I understood. So therefore they were like in the apartment illegally. But Ben Ammi knew these people didn't have nowhere to go. So he wrote them a letter, and I read the letter. And the only thing that I'm sorry is that I didn't keep it, But he told them that they had to get out that apartment. And so after after I had been there for about a week, close to a week, I was mentally stable to a certain degree to go to the American Embassy to identify myself. So I went to the American Embassy. Um, I told them that that my parents had been calling, trying to find out what had happened and where I was, and so they brought out some letters and things that my parents had wrote them, and I had to identify myself with my passport, and so they told me that my ticket was ready, that I could leave anytime I wanted to leave, and I told them okay. So so what happened was we had left our things down in Demona, and one of my brother-in-laws, the one that came back, Anthony, and Alvon, one of the young brothers, because a lot of them had left, and they were staying down in Beersheba, where we were staying, because they were afraid for their life. So I told them, I said, well, I had to go back down and get my suitcase, because I left it down there. So we decided that we wasn't going to go during the day, because we didn't know what they might try to do to us. So we went that evening. We went down, we caught the bus and went down there that evening. So when we got down to Demona, we didn't really see too much movement of people. And so um, we went into Demona, and it's like the apartments are like 4 stories high, like apartment building. I mean, like projects here, but not on the project style. Project goes like up. It's sort of like the Ida B. Well home, but they go up to 4 stories, and so we sneaked, to the wall, close to the wall as we could get, and we got to the stairway. We sneaked to the stairway. We got up to the top of the 4th floor. We got down on our hands and knees and crawled across the floor, all the way down to the next side, down the stairs to get our things. And then when we came back, we crawled all the way back across the floor and went down the stairs, and we caught the bus. And from that day to this day, I did not look back at Demona. We got our things and we left, but we had to go in that way because, again, like I said, we didn't know if they caught us down there, what they would do to us or what. So, so anyway, I went on and got my ticket from the embassy, and my mother-in-law went with me to the airport, to Lute Airport. I gave her all the money that I had to try to help her, sustain herself until, she decided to come back or whatever. So in the meantime, I was sitting there waiting for, at first they didn't want to let me out. The customs didn't want to let me leave the country. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't. It really escapes me now why, because I think the custom agent did say something. I don't know exactly what now because I was just so mixed up. So anyway, they finally did let me go through, and so I sat there, not knowing what to do with myself. I was just totally mixed up. So in the meantime, I'm sitting there, and they'd already had put out an alert for me. In other words, to make sure that I get on the plane. So I'm sitting.
Who had put out an alert for you?
I think it was either the American Embassy or the Israeli police. I don't know which one it was. I think it was the American Embassy because my parents had called, and they told them that they would definitely make sure that I would get on the plane to come back to the States. And so I was sitting there, like I said, I was confused and mixed up, and I didn't, I wasn't really acknowledging where I was, but I knew I was somewhere. And in the meantime, I had not even signed in to get on the plane. That's how confused I was. So I guess, they have a list of people that's supposed to be boarding the plane or whatever. And so some kind of way the stewardess came up and asked me, wasn't I supposed to be boarding this plane? So I don't know what I told her. I guess I said yes, and I don't know what I said.